The world was young, the mountains green, no stain yet on the moon was seen, no words were laid on stream or stone, when Durin woke and walked alone. The dwarves, a small, defiant, but steadfast and inexhaustible people. Many of them have played their part in the great annals of history and have accomplished great feats of legend. But there was one among them who towered above them all and would be the father of legends and sagas like no other. The first and eldest of all the dwarves, founder of Moria and a beacon of hope for his people, Durin the Deathless. It is said that the dwarves were never originally intended by the one Ilúvatar, for it was the smith of the Valar, Aule, who had grown impatient for the arrival of the elves and man and longed for apprentices to whom he could impart his immense knowledge. And so it came about that Aule secretly took to crafting, and crafted beings in the likeness of what he had once been able to glimpse of the children of Ilúvatar in the great vision before the creation of the world. His creations, while only roughly resembling the original, were far more resilient and robust, a useful trait, as evil ruled the lands of Middle-earth in those days. Aule's power was great, but not limitless. He had the power to shape and form the matter of creation, and thus these new beings could move and act, but they were not truly alive, for the dwarves lacked a soul. Aule had only been given one life, his own, derived from the One, and could at most only distribute it. Thus these dwarves were mere puppets of his mind, and could only act when he directed them. But as Aule worked, he was confronted by Ilúvatar, chastising him for his impatience. But the Creator did not speak without pity, for when Aule, filled with remorse, lifted his hammer to smite the eldest of his creations, it flinched and cowered before him. And as Aule withheld his stroke, astonished, he heard the laughing of Ilúvatar. "Do you wonder at this?" he said. "Behold, thy creations now live, free from thy will, for I have seen thy humility and taken pity on your impatience. Thy making I have taken up into my design." Thus the dwarves were made whole and free to roam Arda, albeit with one condition. It had been ordained by Ilúvatar that the elves should be the first to wake and roam this world, and thus Aule laid the 7 fathers of the dwarves with their wives and their entourage to rest deep under the ground, so that they sleep there until their time had come. Durin had been the first dwarf Aule had created. It was he who cowered before Aule's hammer, and it was he who was the first to behold the light of day under the mountain of Gundabad. However, where the other 6 fathers of the dwarves had been laid to rest besides their mates, Durin was alone. Awaking at Gundabad after thousands of years of hibernation, he trod south, and as the lay speaks, he named the nameless hills and dells, he drank from yet untasted wells, till he stooped and looked in Miramir, and saw a crown of stars appear as gems upon a silver thread above the shadow of his head. This was the lake of Khazad-dum. Here Durin placed a rune-decorated stone, which would still commemorate that legendary event thousands of years later. And in the caves above that lake, he built his home, the great dwarven city forever sacred to every dwarf, Khazad-dum, known to man as Moria. In this time the other dwarfs settled in his kingdom as Middle-earth grew busier, and the events of the First Age unfolded. Durin founded his own house in Moria, the House of Durin, otherwise known as the Longbeards. Amidst them, Durin himself grew, older than any other dwarf, Longbeard or otherwise, eventually being known as Durin the Deathless. Exactly how long Durin lived is not known, but it can be estimated that, where a normal dwarf might live to around 250 years, Durin might have left the lands of the living closer to 4,000. Durin's legacy would endure, however, for the dwarves say that, like the other dwarf fathers, he would be reincarnated 6 times. The stories tell that, in his royal line, there would be scions who would bear such a resemblance to him in appearance and manner that they would receive the name Durin. Newer insights, however, state that the reappearance is not, when examined, probably one of rebirth, but of the preservation of the body of a former Durin, to which, at intervals, his spirit would return. Therefore, some of the lore masters believe that it is not a reincarnation of Durin the Deathless into the body of one of his descendants, but Durin himself returning to life to lead his people in times of great need. Unfortunately, only a few of these returns of Durin are known from the histories of Arda. Durin III reigned around the year 1600 of the Second Age and was on good terms with Celebrimbor, grandson of the great Fëanor, and the one who crafted the Rings of Power. In those times the dwarves of Moria were closely allied to the dwarves of Irjikor, an elven realm not far from the Misty Mountains, and it was Durin III who was given the first of the 7 dwarven Rings of Power, which allowed Moria to rise to even greater splendor. Unfortunately, very little is known about Durin IV and V. The only thing we know, however, is that the one dwarven ring of Durin III was always passed down the line of rulers from king to heir, and thus made its way down to Durin VI. This was in the second half of the Third Age. Though Moria was prosperous in those days, Durin VI was to be the last ruler of that great dwarven realm, because it was then that the dwarves dug too deep into the depths of the world, and so the downfall of Moria was enacted. For in the year 1980 of the Third Age, the mithril miners of Durin VI awoke a nameless terror from those ancient times, a Balrog of Morgoth. It wreaked havoc upon the great kingdom, destroying what the dwarves had built in millennia, even slaying Durin VI and his son King Nain I within the first 2 years of his terror. Thus Khazad-dum was devastated and depopulated, truly living up to the elven name Moria, the Black Pit. The dwarves of the House of Durin were led to Erebor by Nain's son, King Thrain I, leaving the great treasures and heirlooms of Durin's house to slumber in the depths of Moria. And at the dawn of the Fourth Age, this is the end of Durin the Deathless. It is said that he will return once more for his 7th and final time. Then, they say, Moria will once again become the magnificent dwarven kingdom of Khazad-dum, and dwarven peoples will revel in splendor and glory one last time. One last time, before the world grows grey, the mountains old, and the forge's fire will be ashen cold. No songs will be sung, no hammer falls, and darkness will dwell in Durin's halls. And that concludes this chapter and this video. Did the knowledge surprise you? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed it and would like to learn more of the world of Tolkien, be sure to subscribe and click the bell icon to be notified when Mysteries of Westerners returns to Arda. This has been Irjikor Puruvane, and I wish you all Namarie Meldonyar.